We have clearly seen through evidence the figure that they call Santa or Satan is the false deity Odin, the one-eyed false god. This figure in the Bible is known as Nebo, which means prophet, in this case the false prophet, who comes in the appearance of superintelligence, offering mankind the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But it comes at a cost, the cost of privacy. This is the reason the tree became half woman and half tree. Then eventually it became a naked woman. This, of course, being the result of eating from the tree, as Eve, who represents all mankind. This has happened more than once, and you can see that men were slaves in the time of the Tower of Babel, who had a ruler over the tower called Nimrod, who was worshipped as a sun deity like Sol Invictus, that was worshipped by the Romans. Quote, actually, it began with pagan midwinter festivals and Roman festival of Saturnalia to honor the god Saturn in the run-up to what later became the Western Christmas. It was a time when gifts were given and sacrifice was made to Saturn. December 25th was the Roman festival of Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, day of the birth of the unconquered sun. It was the winter solstice in Roman calendar, and the sun was depicted flying through the sky in a magnificent chariot pulled by divine horses. The deity Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, was worshipped by Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, who later made Christianity the state religion. Zeus, who we have seen is Marduk, who has the servant dragon, right? Flies through the sky on a chariot of horses. Just like we've seen with Sol Invictus. Alright, Marduk goes back to Baal and the dragon, Baal and the tree. Alright, and then you have Santa, who flew through the sky with reindeer. Alright, he had the reindeer pulling him through the sky. He did it all in one night, so he was omnipresent, trying to be like the Most High. And he climbs down the chimney, entering into man's house. Entering into man's tent, his body, taking possession like Odin, the leader of the possessed. Notice he holds his hand up in this be quiet gesture. Like you see in Hollywood, all these people with the be quiet. See all these actors doing the same symbol. This festival of Christmas is celebrated each year on December 25th, which I call Fishmas. It is their plan to once again enslave mankind into a one-world system that they call the Great Reset, or network. They want to integrate man with AI, thus making man into a robot. I believe that is why there is such a big push for the humanoid robots. It is a mocking of their goal to make man into a robot. If you look up the origin of this word, you will see the word means forced labor, servitude, and slave. This is what they did at the Tower of Babel, whose leader was Nimrod, aka Odin, the king of the possessed. As we have seen in earlier videos, the Hebrew in chapter 11 of Genesis shows that they were slaves under one binding, or bank, as in one world bank, one world system. Now let's look at some things in this passage. And they said to one another. Alright, so this word another is Ra. Ra means also thoughts, and it also means evil. Evil thoughts. The evil eye. Just like, in the Tower of Babel is control. Controlling your thoughts. And then if you look here, it says, let us make bricks. Well, this word right here is make brick by itself, to make bricks. But this word behind it where it says bricks here means an altar of brick. Let us make an altar of brick. Now it says, let us bake them. This word bake them, seraph. Alright, same spelling here is a seraph as a burning serpent, the fiery serpent. Serpent wrapped around the tree, which you see here, seraph 8314a is the fiery serpent. Now, if you go on, it says probably one of the order of angelic beings. The fallen ones. That's that fallen angel technology. The serpent wrapped around the tree that we've seen as AI. And it goes on, it says, they have this fiery, and then it says, basically they had one binding. And then it goes on to say the Father came. They were building a tower, right? So a tower, like a pole. This word migdal, as we've seen before in the other one, means a podium or a rostrum, a bank, a tower. A rostrum's like a post. Same thing we have seen before, the Asherah pole, the post. Santa has the North Pole. It's all just repackaged. And Yahuwah came down to see all of this, the tower they had built. And he said the people are of one binding. They're all one. They become one. Just like in Revelation it says, and they became one and gave their power and reign to the beast. It's the same story again. So Yahuwah, talking about all the stuff that they would devise to do, all the stuff that they want to come up with. Nowadays you see all these inventions. Everybody's coming up with stuff. They don't realize that some of this stuff other people are coming up with at the same time, because they're all getting the same thoughts fed to them all at once. I know I did when I was doing all the stuff. I was coming up with stuff, and I'd look and see someone else come up with the same idea. That's because we were being fed. We were listening to the wrong spirit. Yahuwah forgive me for that. Now, he says, let us confuse the language. And confuse, confound, mix, mingle. This is encryption. Encrypts the signal so that they could not receive the signal anymore that was being broadcasted to them from this tower. It's encryption. That they may not understand the speech of one man to Ra'ah, which we've seen, the thoughts, or can be evil. And if you look this word Ra'ah up, to be evil, like they have it spelled here in the passage, is an evil spirit. There's a hay behind that. They couldn't understand the signal coming from the evil spirit. They had the same technology back then. People don't believe that, but when you see all these monuments and stuff, nobody can understand how they're being built. How did they build all these things? They had technology. So Marduk, who is Nimrod, right, who is the god of Babylon, of medicine and magic, sorcery. All right, so he had a dragon that he rode on. This dragon was a slave to him, meaning he's standing on top of it. He's riding this dragon. All right, so the dragon is called Meshushu. All right, this is the dragon here. Means splendid serpent. It appears on this libation vase. As you can see here, is a serpent wrapped around a pole. So in the early depictions of Asherah, she's a tree, and then she becomes a naked woman, but she's also this dragon, because the serpent is the tree and the dragon's wrapped around the pole, entwined around, controlling the person that it is indwelled into. It's demonic possession. Now, going back to Nimrod, who is Marduk, is also this false demon here, which we've all seen, Zeus. And Egyptian, he was Ra. Ra is the Hebrew word for evil. Resh Ayin, the evil eye. And that's what this is. The evil eye is associated with sun deities. It's a sun disk. And Helios, the sun god who flies through the air, right, with horses, which we know have turned into reindeers for Santa. This deity has sun rays on its head, just like the Statue of Liberty has sun rays on its head. All right? So Nimrod, as we've seen, Nimrod ruled the Tower of Babel, which happened 120 years or so, which would be 1776 annual moon day. The rebellion. Now, the Statue of Liberty has a broken chain on its foot. Rebellion. And this is a symbol of one world leader, Nimrod, the sun deity. Going back to Helios. And in Helios, right, we've seen that Marduk had a son. His son's name was Nabu. Nabu originally had a serpent that he rode on, Mushushu, the servant dragon, a slave. The dragon was a slave. That both deities, both Nabu and Baal, who is Nimrod, rode on top of. And that, the deity of Nabu is also all these other deities. Odin, who we've seen is the leader of the possessed. This is all about demonic possession, which is none other than Thoth in Egypt. Hermes. Now, Hermes carried a staff that is a serpent, just like we seen earlier with Marduk. All right, Marduk and his serpent. So if you go back to his serpent right here, and you look at the libation glass, libation vase right here, a Gudea, there's a serpent. The same serpent that's carried by Nabu when he becomes Mercury. So he's got the serpent right here. We've seen in the last video that his symbol is the rooster. And they put that in the Kentucky Fried Chicken movie of everybody being demonically possessed. Now, he has a winged hat, and then Nabu has a horned hat. One horn on his hat. So Hermes, same deity, right? They're both merchants. He's cunning, like the serpent. And of course his parent is Zeus, which is Marduk. Ra in Egypt. Helios, the sun deity. All of it's connected. Mercury, same thing. All of it's connected. And then his name means mark. Think about that for a minute. In Old Norse, his name means mark. And by pharmakeia, the nations were deceived. By the mark. The great merchants of the earth. Through pharmakeia, the nations were deceived by the mark. It all goes back to Ai, as we've seen earlier. With, if you follow the women, you can see that Odin, who's the god of the possessed people, is related to Hephaestus, who is what they call the god of Ai. Now, the word God is actually a pagan word. I'm only saying these words so that you can understand that this is all demons, and it's a plan that they have to destroy man. Now, how did, the serpent, which is a servant dragon here, how did it become a tree, and how did it become a pole, Asherah pole? So if you look up Asherah, you see the woman is half naked, but half tree. And she's associated with sacred trees and all of that, right? Down here, another. She's associated with a tree. See, part tree. Notice she had an Asherah tree in that the bodies which resembled tree trunks. So they were part woman, part tree. Now, Nabu was standing here with Marduk on top of Meshushu, their dragon, their serpent dragon, the servant dragon. You see it here, you'll see the tree. It's now, the dragon's gone and there's a tree. And you see these deities here. This one is Nabu with the horned helmet. He's got the wings. He's taken the pineal gland, the control center of the brain, out. And you have the tree here of knowledge with the little deity on top that's controlling the tree. The Caduceus staff, right, which is what we saw earlier, which all these, if you think of Marduk and Nabu, Nabu is Hermes, carries the Caduceus staff, which is the symbol of Pharmakeia. The nations were deceived by Pharmakeia. Goes down to Apollo. So Apollo was given this, and it shows that Apollo was a dragon slayer. He conquered the dragon, conquered the people. We've heard that before. And this goes to Delphi, Python. It goes back to what we were talking about, Gaia, AI. Now Apollo, conquered the serpent. And they identify the serpent as Dracania. Dracania, the python slayed by Apollo. Right? And going down it says Draken or dragon. Most Dracanians had some features of human women. Right? Like Medusa and these other ones. But they emphasize human aspects rather than the Dracania alone. It has been argued that she is a woman that has been fused with the dragon, become one with the serpent. Just like we've seen Nabu, who has a slave serpent, who become all these deities, Mercury. Alright, Mercury here has the dragon now as a staff in his hand. I'm controlling it. I'm wielding the control over. If you go back to Nabu, you also see that it's Odin, leader of the possessed. Python, demon-possessed woman, indwelled with this demonic spirit. So the woman who becomes the serpent, who is also the tree, it's all connected back to these ancient deities who came from Nimrod, who was the first world ruler, right? So notice that libation vase that we shown earlier has the serpent wrapped around the tree, the symbol of the curse, right? Because Masha held up the serpent, symbol of the curse on all the earth. And this is dedicated to this Ninga Shida deity here. He was associated with Meshushu, the slave serpent woman, as we've seen. And notice who he is associated with. He is Demuzid, who is none other than Tammuz, as we see in the scriptures, weeping for Tammuz. Tammuz is associated as being the son of Nimrod. It all connects back to the Tower of Babel and how they want to complete that plan into one world system. So let's look at this plan from the beginning. We know the Ashtaroth was a tree. The tree turned into a woman. Astarte is Astaroth, is a tree that have bodies which resemble tree trunks. Astarte, naked, a naked woman without a covering or closure. She is Venus, as we've seen here, and Venus is Aphrodite. You see here, she's Venus and Aphrodite, right? And Aphrodite is married to Hephaestus. Hephaestus, as we've seen, is the god of AI. He's also Vulcan. See here, he's forged by Hephaestus, the ancient Greek mythology as artificial intelligence. Here in Iniquity, a history of artificial intelligence, we talk about Hephaestus. And he had the idea of intelligent robots and artificial beings like Pandora, like the Pandora's box that they have opened now. Venus, who is the same thing as Aphrodite, was married to Vulcan, who is the equivalent of Hephaestus. She's also Friday. Friday comes from Frigg. The etymology, Old Norse, Frigg, the Nordic goddess, false goddess, of course, demon, Frigg, who is associated with the Roman goddess Venus. This is where you get Friday from. Frigg, nearly all sources portray her as the wife of Odin. Odin is the god of the possessed, or the leader of the possessed, demonically possessed. The word free, as we use in English for freedom, comes from Norse Frigg, who is the name of the wife of Odin. We have a symbol of freedom on our coast. Who is Lucifer, who has the same crown of Helios on his head, as we've seen, a chain broken, off the chain, right? July the 4th, 1776. That's the date they have on there. This is a symbol of freedom. Freedom is the kingdom of Free, who is the married wife of Odin, who is the leader of the possessed. You see what plan they have here? Do you see it? 1776. The flood happened in Annual Moon Day 1656. If you take 1776 and subtract 120 years from it, you get the flood date. So if you add from the flood 120 years, you get when the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel is often placed 120 years after the flood in some interpretations. Tower of Babel. This is a reason why you see now we have a Stargate. Now, Stargate, you have this project going on right now. The United States has this huge Stargate AI thing going on right now. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Stargate that they made. Predictive programming, of course. That is basically a movie about a race of people who are slaves to technology. These men here have just greater technology than all the people in the background. They're all like poor people, and the technology is so great that they're slaves by it. In ancient Babel, they had a gate called the Ishtar Gate. And on the Ishtar Gate, you had the Meshushu dragon, which is the servant dragon of those false deities, these demons, representing the woman who has been made naked. When you walk through these gates into the city of Babylon, you are now a slave in Babylon. When the children of Yasharel were put into Babel, they were slaves, serving the other mighty ones. All right, and all these other deities were naked. This represents the adulterous wife that has been naked. She has been exposed. No longer has a covering, no longer have any privacy. All taken away. Friday. The reason why it's on Friday, that's the 6th day. The sixth day in Scripture represents the sixth festival, Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, or the dark day of Yahweh. Which then there's going to be an affliction upon the earth, which the next video I'm hoping to put out soon after this one will talk about the affliction that comes about because of all of this. Now all these women in these depictions are all made naked and all servants to these false gods, these demons. And another word for naked is disclosure. Right? A closure means something that's enclosed, like your mind's enclosed, sealed by Yahweh. But when you put stuff in it and disobey, you become disclosed. You become uncovered. Eve, when she ate of the tree, she became disclosed. And the act of that is disclosure, the taking away of the covering and made naked, open up and exposed. Now they have a new movie coming out, which they're mocking man with, full of pagan occultic symbols, and it's called Disclosure Day. I'm going to go over some of the imagery in this movie. Now above the tree, you can see right here that there's an all-seeing eye, and then of course we have the all-seeing eye on our money. This is a Masonic all-seeing eye. This imagery has been shown over and over again from Egypt, where it was a symbol of mind control. And now here's the image for the new movie, Disclosure Day. Disclosure Day. All will be naked day. All will be disclosed. All will be revealed. Notice the date, 6/12. 12 is 2 sixes, that's 3 sixes, and you got 2 and a 6 for 26. Now the next image you see here is the person with one eye covered. And that goes all the way back to the Nakash, gouging out one eye of the Israelites, making them slaves. Notice that their eye is covered with a cardinal. The cardinal were considered as a symbol for the sun god Apollo. In Roman mythology, the cardinal is represented as a messenger of Jupiter, who is none other than Zeus. And then in pop culture, the cardinals are reincarnated souls of loved ones or family members who pass away. Necromancy. Disclosure Day, for short, that would be D-Day, like the dark day of Yahweh. Yahusha told us that demons would be possessing a mass amount of people when the rain comes. As he said, if I cast out demons by the spirit of Elohim, then you know the rain is upon you. That's in Matthew 12:28.
If you found out we weren't alone, if someone showed you, proved it to you.
Alright, so now look here on the background, you have all these butterflies. We know that the monarch butterfly is associated with mind control. All in the background here. Now, we've seen that the cardinal represents Apollo, right? Now, in this scene, you're going to see this woman basically being dwelled by a demon and speak some kind of dactylic or evil language.
Good morning, Kansas City. Let's take a look at today. Today's.
Now, they're showing you the relationship between Apollo, mind control, and demonic possession. Now, let's go to the next scene. Now notice how their eyes change in the symbol when they get indwelled by these demonic entities. Now in this scene, you just seen him controlling this woman with some type of technology. He's got this brain computer interface or something on his head, and he's like moving this other person.
Encountering the unknown.
People are all like staring right here, blank faces. This guy's like scared back here, like what is going on with these people?
They're coming! They're coming! They are stopped.
Notice they have screens all around, and you have the big 2-3 right in the middle of the screen here. 23. And they're watching everybody and what everybody's doing all over the world.
For the truth.
Do you think there could be others?
Why would he make such a vast universe?
Now, you have the cardinal with the deer. The deer is a symbol of Artemis, the twin of Apollo. The cardinal and the deer together. Demonic possession is what this is about. And this whole disclosure statement is, or disclosure day, think about that, the naked day, when everything's going to be exposed, is when mankind loses its covering and are indwelled by demons. And they're going to make it seem like they're from some outer space place. They're setting people up to be deceived by this. So when it all goes down and people turn, instead of understanding what was written in the Bible, they'll blame it on something from outer space, which is a lie.
Save it. Oh.
Now you have the little girl with the animals walking towards the house. Now,
Only for us.
I'm not sure what these animals are. If I had to make a guess, it's probably a fox right there, which means cunning, wicked, evil. This right here is a deception. A great deception that they're going to bring out to deceive you. Because they have placed the abomination of desolation and the time is short.